I've talked with parents, their kids, some of them adult children, have been ensnared with this LGBTQ cult, and they've cut them off. You are in a cult, and in the name of Jesus Christ, I stand against this devil of hell.
This is Jason Rapert. If you're unfamiliar, he is a Christian nationalist, used to be a state-level congressman, a senator, I think. I don't remember where. No longer. He lost his election. And after losing his election, he started something called the National Association for Christian Lawmakers, NACL, and is passing bills that he calls moral bills, which is absolutely psychotic stuff. You know, full abortion bans, full gay marriage bans, no-fault divorce bans, the whole nine. Banning contraception and all that other good junk. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, currently is also a member. But I want to talk about Christian nationalism in general, because recently the Alabama Supreme Court decided that in vitro fertilization embryos are children and should be treated as children. And all right, let me phrase it this way. When somebody is having trouble getting pregnant, they give them, a woman can't conceive, so they give her like injections of certain hormones to get her body kickstarted, to give her the best chance of conception. Sometimes they'll remove eggs from the woman and they'll mix them with the sperm, and then you've got a few embryos, and you can freeze those embryos for a period of time, right? Or implant one of the embryos. So it's a total of like 150 cells at most. 200,000 cells in the brain of a fly. And we're talking 150 cells total. Not visible. You can't see it. That's how small, okay? So IVF involves people implanting the embryo in their uterus to try to, it attaches to the uterine wall and it grows into a baby, and then they have the baby and they're all happy because that's what they wanted. Well, a lot of the time, if a woman is having trouble conceiving or whatever, they will freeze extra embryos. So when they do that process, they take the eggs out and everything, they freeze like 5 other embryos, for example, or whatever. And they stay good until they're ready to use them. So 20 years down the line, you want a kid, they can take one of those embryos, unfreeze it, implant it into the uterus, and then boom, you got a kid. Well, the Alabama Supreme Court decided that those frozen embryos are children, apparently in some kind of cryo prison. And if you drop a vial containing embryos or whatever, then you've just committed murder. That's not even a joke. That isn't hyperbole. That is what they decided. Quick interjection. This won't take long. If you like what I do, I'd appreciate it if you watch the video to the end. YouTube bases video reach off of watch time, so watching even an extra minute makes the video go further. Liking and subscribing goes a long way too. Finally, it would be awesome if you guys checked out my Patreon. All links are in the description, of course. Okay, back to the video. And the guy you're looking at on the left here, this guy is the guy that wrote the majority opinion. He's the Chief Justice on the Alabama Supreme Court. IVF clinics that help people who otherwise cannot have children, help them have them, are closing their doors out of fear that they might be prosecuted or something for murder if their, cryo frozen tanks or whatever go out for a day or something. Or if they have to dispose of them. Somebody dies, right? The woman dies and she stops paying because she's been dead for like 5 years and now it's time to just dispose of it. That's murder all of a sudden in their mind. Insane. On the right here is a guy named Johnny Enlow. He's a QAnoner. He believes in QAnon. I want to make that clear. This is his platform. It's called Restore 7. You can see it up in the top left if you're watching. That's the name of his website, Restore 7, because he's a member of the Seven Mountains Mandate, Seven Mountains Dominionist, and he's a QAnoner. The idea behind the Seven Mountains Mandate is these people want to take control of the 7 areas of society, of the economy, of the military, the government, of the business, of this, that, blah, media, so on and so forth. I don't remember them all. Fascinatingly, it's the exact supposed plan for world domination that the Nazis claimed that Jews had. Really, I'm not even joking. Anyway, I wanted to listen to what QAnoner Johnny Enlow had to say to full-blown Christian nationalist Tom Parker, Chief Justice on the Alabama Supreme Court. Dude included Bible verses in his opinion. So check this clip out. This is from February 20th, 2024.
There's this phrase, Christian nationalism, that's going around right now, and you have, we'll say, non-Christians fear-mongering with it and saying, you know, that there's these people that are really trying to take over and damage our country.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Agreed. Yes, I am concerned that these people right here, Christian nationalists, self-avowed, in Johnny Enlow's case, Christian nationalists, are trying to take over the country. Yes, absolutely. Go on. I don't think, by the way, I don't think that's fear-mongering. I think that's just an accurate representation of reality.
Through Christian nationalism, is there, you may not have even think or may not even thought or even think through the grid of Christian nationalism, but why is this not something non-Christians need to worry about?
Why shouldn't non-Christians be worried about Christian nationalism is the question, right?
About why is what's being called Christian nationalism, which the way I hear you describing is specifically just going back to what's right principles. That's what the Constitution was being built on. Well, just any thoughts on that? Well,
quick note before we continue, I want to let you know I just wrote a book. If you want to check it out, owenmorgan.com/book. It's a book about my experiences within Jehovah's Witnesses. It's completely understandable if you know nothing about Jehovah's Witnesses. And if you're a Christian, it's a good reference to use for why Jehovah's Witnesses are wrong about their interpretation of the Bible. The last chapter of the book is 100 questions that I have for the governing body. I'm selling the last chapter separately as its own separate guide if you guys want to get that too. So check it out, owenmorgan.com/book. I'd appreciate that. Yeah, so if you didn't see this, I watched this entire interview on my Owen Unfiltered YouTube channel, the whole thing beginning to end. And the guy threw out some really interesting lines in this that, you know, I saved the clips for them and I'll probably cover it in future episodes. But so this guy is about to tell us why we don't need to fear Christian nationalism. By the way, let's just define nationalism, okay? Real quick. And nationalism is kind of like an ideology that people put on as a personality. Like National Socialism. That was the Nazi. That's what Nazi meant. It was the nationalist version of socialist. Of course, there was a whole bunch of stuff in between there. They hated communists and socialists ultimately. That was just the vehicle that they used to get to the top. Similar to what we're seeing now. Just like socialism was used as a vehicle in nationalism to get Hitler to the top, Christianity is being used as a vehicle through nationalism to get dictators to the top, extremists to the top. But this is the Encyclopedia Britannica article on nationalism. Nationalism ideology based on the premise that the individual's loyalty and devotion to the nation-state surpass other individual or group interests. This article discusses the origins and history of the nationalism to the 1980s. For later development in the history of nationalism, see 20th century international relations. The modern nature of nationalism. Nationalism is a modern movement. Throughout history, people have been attached to their native soil, to the traditions of their parents, and to the and to established territorial authorities. But it was not until the end of the 18th century that nationalism began to be a generally recognized sentiment, molding public and private life, and one of the great, if not the greatest, single determining factors of modern history. Let me check the 20th century one. 20th century international relations. History of the relations between states, especially great power. All right. FYI, I think Wikipedia and Encyclopedia Britannica should both be advertising, and everything should be unlocked, in my opinion. Okay, nationalism, according to Wikipedia, it's an idea and movement that holds that a nation should be congruent with the state. As a movement, it presupposes the existence and tends to promote the interests of a particular nation, especially with the aim of gaining and maintaining its sovereignty. So the definition doesn't really do it justice, but the idea is whoever is using nationalism to get to where they want to be is they're going to use populist language. They're going to appeal to the lower class of people, the working man, the poor, and they're going to manipulate them into getting what they want, effectively. I mean, look at how Hitler used nationalism. It's a perfect example. National Socialism. In this case, we're looking at Christian nationalism with Johnny Enlow and others. It is no different from what Hitler did. It is the exact same thing, except they're using Christianity as the vehicle to get to where they want to be instead. Now, nationalism is well-defined, well understood, and there's a ton of literature on what nationalism is and how different movements and ideals and ideologies are used as vehicles to bring people to a nationalist position. But let's just keep listening to the Chief Justice here, see what he says. Should we fear Christian nationalism?
Well, first, this is an undefined term that's being thrown around now.
No, it's not undefined. Nationalism is well understood. What are you talking about? It's undefined.
To label people, and I have no idea what they mean by it or what should be meant by it.
Really? You don't know what that means, huh? Interesting. I mean, I didn't start the term Christian nationalism. It just kind of organically rose up as the term that people use, I guess. I thought for sure that a Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Alabama wouldn't be so stupid that he didn't know what nationalism was. He's not stupid, is he? Is he dumb as dog, or does he actually know what nationalism is? It can only be one.
I do not see returning to the original form of government, the original meaning of the Constitution, as Christian.
Okay, well, interesting you say that. The goals that this guy is pushing is to bring what he believes the original form of the Constitution to be is Christian nationalist. He thinks the original Constitution was Christian nationalist, and he's trying to bring it back to its original form. Guess what? When the Constitution was written, women couldn't have credit cards. They couldn't even vote. We still had slaves. We had the 3/5 compromise. Remember that? Do you really want to go back to that time period? Do you think the Founding Fathers had any idea what artificial intelligence was? They didn't even know what a calculator was, let alone AI. We live in a different world, bro. It's not the same world. It's not the same context. It's not the same situation that we live in. We can't go back to the original meaning or your interpretation of the original meaning. And his interpretation of the original meaning, of course, perfectly coincides with his religious beliefs. Isn't that interesting? How convenient is that? There's nothing Christian about my religious beliefs, is basically what he just said. Okay, go on. He's not dumb as dog. He's pretending to be. He's acting he's acting stupid. He's like, oh, I have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, this guy's literally sitting here talking to a QAnoner. Full-blown member of the QAnon movement, self-avowed. And he's suddenly telling me, oh, I have no idea what Christian nationalism is. Never heard. This is the first time I've ever heard that term. Does anybody know what Christian nationalism is? I went through 4 years of undergrad and 3 years of law school and read countless cases, both domestic and foreign, and I've never, I don't know what nationalism is. No clue. This is a joke, dude. I just want to put on record that Enlow is a QAnoner. I don't want that to be missed. Enlow on the right here, I think he's honest. I think he's a really nice, honest guy. I just think that he's a QAnoner. This clip we're about to listen to here that affirms that he is, in fact, a full-blown member of the QAnon movement, a QAnon believer, is from late September 2022.
For those in the body of Christ who keep saying, I am not a conspiracy theorist, You are saying something that's totally incongruent with Scripture, with the admittance of Scripture itself, that the nations, the leaders of nations, are always in conspiracy against God. Evil men in high places are always in conspiracy against God. That's why.
Okay. I mean, I guess conspiracies exist, sure. But he's using this as the basis to believe that Hillary Clinton, like, drinks kids' blood to get, like, adrenochrome and, like, cuts their faces off and all this junk. Like, what? That's all QAnon belief.
He tells us, you are the light of the world. You arise and shine. You are the salt of the earth, because those who are separated from God and his kingdom will not contend for anything other than their own ways, and it will be a way of wickedness. And so this is why conspiracies exist. Conspiracies have been proven.
Yeah. But let me tell you this. There is zero evidence to show that Frazzle Drip is real. Frazzle Drip is this supposed video that exists of Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin, one of her aides at the time, I think, Anthony Weiner's wife, basically torturing a kid and drinking her blood to get the adrenochrome. It's fake. It wasn't a video. They didn't even do a deep fake. They just claimed it existed. That's it. Do you have any idea how many people knew about the torture program in the 2000s in Iraq? Like a total of 500. It was the most guarded of the most guarded secret. And the public found out about it. And it's just known now. Like, we have no doubt. Like, everybody knows, yes, there was torture happening. Do you really think that, we were talking like 500 people before. Do you really think that literal thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even millions, I don't know, of elites are taking part in this bizarre adrenochrome conspiracy theory, and not a single shred of evidence has been forthcoming? Really? Sure, conspiracies exist, but guess what? The more people who are involved in them, the quicker they leak, the quicker they're exposed.
Yeah. What has been revealed to all of us, even in recent days, is President Trump aligning himself clearly, distinctly, as being congruent, working with, in some way, however you want to look at it, with what is the Q plan.
There you go. He's a QAnoner. Trump working with Q and the Q plan.
Some way, however you want to look at it, with what is the Q plan, which has been revealing for 5 years. All who have followed Q have been considered and called conspiracy theorists.
Because you are.
And every single one of them has been proven already. Now,
every conspiracy claimed by QAnon has been proven? Different reality, man. Different reality.
Some in the community go off into other depths of it, but you have to understand the primary elements that were brought out 5 years ago, that there is a group of world leaders.
Yeah, the original thing that started 5 years ago, the thing he's talking about, Frazzle Drip. It's that supposed video that existed of Hillary Clinton doing that stuff to those kids. The fake video. The fictitious video that never appeared, not even a deep fake.
There is a group of world leaders who are a cult, and they're a satanic cult, and they're pedophiles, and they traffic children, they traffic people, they steal blood, they do sacrifices. That is not a conspiracy theory. If you still think it is, you are blind. Get your head out of the sand.
I feel so bad for him, man. Johnny Enlow is honestly a good guy, I believe. An honest, good, nice person who got suckered into the most ridiculous conspiracy theory on planet Earth. And here he sits next to Chief Supreme Court Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court. That is nuts.
Era of incredible founding fathers who debated at length and put together something that was a remarkable example to help turn the world.
I agree. The founding fathers who debated and created the Constitution. the U.S. Constitution was not the first of its kind, but in my opinion is the best of its kind. It is really, really good. And it's lasted a long time, too, for what it's worth. It's lasted, coming up on 300 years, right? Well, 250 years, I guess.
The world. And it's remarkable that it has held up as long as it has in the face of the distortions. But, as I said, I have hope that it can be restored. And it's our history. It's our foundation.
So, in the beginning of this interview, again, if you didn't see the whole thing that I did on Owen Unfiltered, he talked about trying to bring the country back to using the 7 mountains to build up the country again in God's image. The 7 mountains. 7 mountains mandate is that Jewish plan for world domination, and these guys are attempting to use it. This is insane. Get help, people. I mean, really think about the implications of making it so that an embryo retrieved through in vitro fertilization is considered a child. Really think about the implications. How many people have IVF embryos frozen right now, and what are they going to do with it in Alabama? So what is Christian nationalism really? Let's talk about what they really want. I showed a clip at the beginning of Jason Rapert, good example of a Christian nationalist. Let me show you what Jason Rapert really wants. Just one Christian nationalist. Not to mention Eric Metaxas, who I talked about in another video recently. Might have been the last video that released on this channel. Just take a listen to what Jason Rapert had to say. This video, by the way, is from early February 2023.
We must take authority. God told us, said, go out there and be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it.
So this is his justification for Christian nationalism. The book of Genesis says, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it. That word there, subdue, that's the key that he's using. Subdue it.
And have dominion over everything. Fill the earth, subdue it. To take authority.
So any other authority in the world, particularly the United States, is illegitimate. Doesn't belong there. It's fake. It should not be recognized. If you are not a Christian nationalist, like an evangelical extremist, you don't have a place in government, in his mind.
And friends, the reason the country is struggling, the reason you've got $32 trillion in debt, no holds barred.
The reason for that is because Republicans keep lowering taxes on the rich. But okay, go on.
The reason we come to brinksmanship over and over again on the national debt is because the Christians in America have failed to take authority, and now is the time to choose.
So he's saying the Christians, not even the Christians. There are every single member of Congress is a Christian, I think, except for like 3. It's like 98% or something like that are Christian. He's not talking about Christians. Even the Democrats are Christians. He's talking about his brand of evangelicalism. That's who he wants in control. That's what makes this Christian nationalism. He's using this specific subset of Christianity over here, this one. He's using it as a vehicle to get himself and the people like him to the top. It's not about Christians or Christianity.
Time to choose. Now is the time to stand. Now is the time to plan. Now is the time to fight. Now is the time to work together to save the country. Look, do you think that America is going to be free with a bunch of drag queens running this place?
Yeah, that's the definition of freedom. If people are drag queens, then that means they're doing what they want to do. That's freedom, baby. What happened to loving freedom? What happened to all that talk about the First Amendment and the Second Amendment and all the other junk? What happened to loving freedom? These people don't love freedom. Christian nationalists, the evangelical voting bloc that are using Christianity as their vehicle to get to a nationalist state, to a dictatorship, they don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about freedom. Hell, a lot of them don't even care about Christianity, honestly. They certainly don't care about what Jesus had to say. They care about getting to the top and controlling everything, no matter what it takes. Now, in this specific clip, Jason Rapert uses something called stochastic terrorism to inspire people of his audience to do something psychotic. If you don't know what stochastic terrorism is, I've talked about it before. Let me just define it one more time. Stochastic terrorism refers to political or media figures publicly demonizing a person or group in such a way that it inspires supporters of the figures to commit a violent act against the target of the speech. Nobody can be indicted or charged or whatever for what they say in a stochastic terrorist talk like we're about to listen to, because Jason Rapert never comes out and tells anybody to do anything. But when he gives talks like this, people in his audience are listening and looking for opportunities. And as a matter of fact, people have been, pulled over before on their way to some building, like, Boston Children's Hospital, the target of stochastic terrorism, with like AR-15s and stuff in the car, with a plan to do something psychotic. Stochastic terrorism works. It accomplishes the goals that these people have, that these Christian nationalists have, to strike the fear of the movement into people, to make people afraid to speak out. I spoke out in West Virginia a few years ago. My kid was in a health class, and her health teacher was telling the students that they need to rely on the Bible. They need to not have sex before marriage. They need to love God and love Jesus, all of the other ridiculous nonsense. And by the way, that's against the law. Not allowed to do that. As an actor of the state, you're not allowed to impose your religious beliefs upon somebody else. Not allowed to favor one religion over another as an actor of the state. First Amendment. In fact, it's the first sentence of the First Amendment. It established what's called the Establishment Clause. Anyway, after we reported the teacher, the entire town, the town had 3,500 people in it. 1,900 were on a Facebook page dedicated to hating me, looking for me, finding some way to get to me, slashing my tires, threatening to burn my house down. Credible threats. Real people taking pictures through my windows in the middle of the night. When I say they, I'm talking Jason Rapert and other Christian nationalists like him, want to strike fear in their enemies. Listen to the rest of this, where he actually does the stochastic terrorism.
With a bunch of drag queens running this place? No.
I mean, that would be freedom.
Do you think America can remain free and strong with a bunch of Antifa nuts running around destroying property? No.
Destroying property? No, I don't believe in that. But Antifa, just like people believing that fascism is bad? Like, I don't see a problem with people believing certain things, but okay.
And if you're tired of that stuff, then it's time to make a change. This is a nation of the people, by the people, and for the people. It was created for you to be in charge. A nation of the people, by the people, and for the people. So when we have politicians and elected officials that are corrupt, they need to be taken out.
You catching this? They need to be taken out. You have the right, you have the authority to walk into this building, this, Capitol building, whatever, and take control. And people who oppose you, take them out.
They need to be taken out. Send them to jail. Send them to prison, just like I've seen some people do even while I was serving in the Arkansas legislature.
Okay, well, it was nice of him to hedge a little bit and point out that prison is the better way to do it.
When you see people like Joe Biden taking advantage of position and enriching his family like he has done.
That didn't happen, by the way. That's completely fabricated. And as a matter of fact, the FBI agent who these claims were all built around was just, I believe, he's arrested for fabricating false documents and everything. Like, Joe Biden didn't do any of this stuff. But okay.
Taking advantage of position and enriching his family like he has done, it's time to take him out. Take him out.
You catching this? Take him out. They do something wrong, it's time to take him out.
His family like he has done, it's time to take him out. Take them out. Remove them. Move them on.
Does it get any clearer than this? This is stochastic terrorism right here. It's a perfect example.
It's time to take authority. It's time to take authority over everything in the earth to make a difference.
The point is that Christian nationalism is something to fear. In its most extreme form, we heard Kanye West, of all people, explain Christian nationalism in more crude terms for us. This, I think, is from early December 2022. Yeah.
But they don't deserve to be in charge of everything because...
Here he's talking about Jews, by the way. He's super anti-Semitic nutcase. He just hates Jews unreasonably. But anyway, the point is that he's a Christian nationalist, so...
But they don't deserve to be in charge of everything because they don't put Christ in...
But how do you legislate that?
They need to work for Christians. Jews should work for Christians. I'll hire a Jewish person in a second. If I knew they weren't a spy and I could look through their phone and follow them to their house and have a camera all in their living room.
I mean, they're laughing, but that wasn't a joke. He was real with that. That's called creating a second-class structure, right? Where there's an upper class who is allowed to own businesses and property and manage things and whatever. And then there's another class, a second class, who is forced to act as the labor, basically. They are the labor force. White collar and blue collar, except in this scenario that Kanye is laying out for us here, the labor class, the lower class, the second class citizens would be non-Christians, would be Jews in his case. That's Christian nationalism. Here's another example of Christian nationalism. This is a representative from Oregon, Representative E. Werner Reschke. I wonder what the E stands for. Eustace, you think? What do you think the E in his name stands for? Eugene, maybe? Eustace or Eugene. I'm going with one of those two. Listen to what he says.
You just go back through history and you look at men and the struggles that they faced and the faith that they had. And those are the type of people that you want in government making tough decisions during tough times. You don't want a materialist. You don't want an atheist. You don't want a Muslim. You want somebody who understands what truth is and understands the nature of man, the nature of government, and the nature of God.
You don't want anybody except for a Christian running things. You don't want anybody but Christians in government under any circumstances. That's Christian nationalism right there.
Of God. Yeah. If you don't understand those things, you're going to get things wrong. And in Oregon, that's a classic example. We have a lot of people who are godless, unfortunately, leading the way, and it's the blind leading the blind.
Yeah. Absolutely psychotic. These people they want to create a structure in which Christians manage everything, and everybody else on the bottom rung feeds into the labor force. They act as the labor force. Second-class citizens and first-class citizens. And now, tell me again there, Johnny Enlow, that there's nothing to fear from Christian nationalism one more time, please.
There's this phrase, Christian nationalism, that's going around right now, and you have we'll say non-Christians fear-mongering with it. And
yeah, fear-mongering. Yeah, no reason to think this. It's totally unjustified. It's baseless. They're just trying to scare you is all, right? Okay? So non-Christians are just trying to scare you over this little Christian nationalist thing.
Fear-mongering with it and saying, that there's these people that are really trying to take over and damage our country through Christian nationalism.
Yeah, they're trying to fundamentally reform it into something that it is not right now. Now, arguably, you could say that what this judge here, this justice, is about to say is accurate in its own way. He says he wants to get back to the original intent, the original meaning, the original Constitution, the original setup, whatever. The original setup, if I remember correctly, is one in which one class of people owned all of the property and ran the plantations, and another class of people worked those plantations and were not compensated for it. First class, second class. Seems like this justice is trying to put us back in that situation. Except in the new system that this guy wants to seemingly set up, the property owners would be Christians and the property workers would be non-Christians. Atheists, Muslims, Jews, so on, so forth. Tell me again, Johnny, how there's nothing to fear. I shouldn't be afraid of it. It's perfectly fine. Get your head out of the sand, Johnny, to use your turn of phrase. Get your head out of the sand. I just showed countless examples of people saying absolutely psychotic stuff and drawing a vivid, disturbing picture for what they intend for non-Christians, for Muslims, for Sikhs, for Jains, for Jews, for atheists, for whatever. How can you, with a straight face, say what Johnny Enlow just said? I really know what you think about this in the comments. And again, let me know what you think the E in this guy's name means. I'm getting Eunice, Edward, Eddie, Estes, getting some of those. Evil is one, I suppose. Tell me what you think in the comments, okay? Michael David, I enjoy these Sundays. It does scare me that these Christian nationals might take over, but at least we can laugh about it along the way. I'm in NY too. It is a safe city. Cheers. Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah. I don't worry about it too much. These are the extreme of the extreme, and we need to vote like our lives depend on it, because they very well may. But Donald Trump has successfully split the party right down the center. He will control it, or he will see it burn to ashes around him. And that's pretty clear. I don't see how anybody could see it any differently. There is now a group of people who will never vote for Trump, no matter what. A group of Republicans. They just won't vote. They'll just sit it out. And it's not a small subset of the population either. That's how Trump lost in 2020, in my opinion. And it's only gotten worse since then. You know, Trump hadn't done an insurrection yet in 2020. And there's a group of people in the Republican Party who will not vote for somebody unless they are Trump endorsed or on his good side otherwise. The Republican Party is tearing itself in two right now. And what is emerging is radical, bizarre ideologies. We're seeing Christian nationalists kind of emerge from the fray right now, and they do have more power than they should have by 1.5 miles. They are not nobodies. They shouldn't be discounted. But I don't believe that they have any real shot at taking over the country the way they want to. No chance. Absolutely no chance. As long as you vote.